in file 23979, he had a probation violation arraignment. In that case, he failed to appear, and I did a probation violation arraignment with him yesterday and pled not guilty. His attorney in that case, I thought was Paul Gibson, his original attorney on the underlying charge. He has a 2-count domestic assault matter set. It was set for a jury trial before Judge Middleton on September 11. And the defendant didn't appear. Judge Middleton was ill that day. I was covering things. We made a record. Mr. Bush indicated that he hadn't heard from him. He had missed an appointment the day before. Mr. Bush left, came back in and said, I just checked with my office. Mr. Wood had left a message last night after 5 saying my granddaughter had a baby and daughter had a baby. Sorry. And which I believe is true, but I said that isn't sufficient reason to not contact your lawyer or show up. So we had domestic violence. Then we had a new charge of trespass, which allegedly occurred on June 3rd of 2024 in file 241571. Mr. Rognus was here on the jury day, which was September 11th, was part of that record. And so I put Mr. Wood in jail, expecting that he would not bond out. And so I set it for the very next day. Mr. Wood brought enough cash with him to bond out, did bond out, but showed up, right place, right time here this morning. So I set all these for a pretrial this morning with Mr. Bush and Mr. Rognus to see if we could somehow resolve it. But as I indicated, I expected him to be in jail. So there wasn't as much urgency if he was going to bond out. But Mr. Bush was already set to be here this morning and was aware of the whole circumstance. So, Mr. Bush, let me defer to you. Where are we here this morning?
Talk to Mr. Wood. It's his plan to retain private counsel, so he'd ask that a further pretrial be set.
That's not what I asked him.
Excuse me?
So I asked it because.
Why don't you let him speak? Maybe that would be
all right, Mr. Wood, what's your preference?
So there was never a trespass given for that.
Say that
I
again.
was never given a trespass for that date. Never was I given a trespass.
Well, they didn't. All right. So, but are you going to get a different lawyer?
I am, sir. What my point is that my lawyer, my probation officer sent me this. If there was no domestic violence post was taken off on the 12th of August. It was taken off of the records for dismissed on the 12th of August. So if there's no domestic violence, there's no failure to appear, right? And if there's no failure to appear, there's no probation because I'd already been off on the 10th.
Yes. Well, the domestic violence wasn't taken off.
Oh, okay. But
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but who do you intend to hire?
I'd rather Michelle.
Which Michelle? All right, set all cases for APT for November 1st. At 8:30. Who's Michelle?
Lady, I know.
All right.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't retain counsel, I guess at that point, Mr. Bush will still be in here.
Am I on the trespass file too, Your Honor?
No. So No, you're only on
The domestic,
the domestic. Um, You posted your bond, you showed up on time. You didn't get to have breakfast in jail, you got breakfast at your own house.
I thought we was having a church tomorrow.
What's that?
I thought we was having a breakfast here.
I'll be here tomorrow, no breakfast at my house.
Yes, sir.
Let's see about this trespass. Because you denied you'd been, it's allegedly on video.
Right, so I'm not denying being there, but Mrs. Miller came to my house right afterwards. I was just there to talk to Mr. Remington Steele, Bobby Steele, and.
All right,
she
we'll,
came-
we'll sort that out.
Okay, yes, sir.
You keep going places where people don't want you to be
Well, he's a
there.
neighborhood, I grew up with him.
Well, okay. We'll get an attorney to help you. All right, I want you to go out to the counter.
So,
They'll give you a notice for those pre-trials. You can share it with your attorney
yes, sir.
and you're good to go.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day, sir.
All right, we'll try.
thank you, Judge.
All right, we're returning to the matter of People versus Thomas David Blair. File number is 24808 FY. Mr. Blair had an opportunity to meet with his lawyer, Mr. Bush, in the breakout room. Let's recap what the actual charge is here. The complaint alleges that on or about February of 24, the defendant forged and uttered and published a check in the amount of something, $312 to Matt Skinner. The original spelling is Skinyars. Go by Skinner, and another one, Grover Gibson. 2 counts of uttering and publishing as a 4th habitual offender makes this a life offense. Mr. Blair is allegedly living at 303 Middle Street, where all kinds of people were calling that as an address. I believe it's about to be torn down by the city of Three Rivers. Mr. Blair is in custody right now in lieu of a $5,000 cash surety bond. He had appeared in June and then went off the grid, and he got picked up again in September. And he's in custody now on a $3,000 cash surety bond. I guess I lowered it from 5,000. Mr. Bush was starting to set out the premises here, and I wanted to make sure the prosecutor was here, so Mr. Rognus rejoined us. Mr. Bush, what's the circumstance here?
Thank you, Judge. I met with Prosecutor Marvin yesterday. Prior to that, Lisa Anatelli had been doing quite a bit of underlying work to see what could be done for services for Mr. Blair. She has made the arrangements for him, if the court approves, for him to be admitted to the Gilmore Center on Shaper Street in Kalamazoo on September 24th. She's made arrangements for Ryan Root, who is a recovery coach, to actually pick him up at the jail and take him to the Gilmore Center. This is all predicated upon if the court would grant him a PR bond. He's serving a child support sentence. Actually doesn't get out to the 25th. Apparently, Ms. Antelli's been in contact with a friend of the court, and they're willing to do an amended sentence to allow him to leave on the 24th to do the services. It's hopeful then, if he completes the Gilmore Center, He would be involved in the New Beginnings program in Kalamazoo, Recovery Services Unlimited in Battle Creek. These are both 90-day programs that Lisa Anatelli has been investigating. There is a Portage Police Department hold that Lisa apparently has been working on right now. Is hoping that that can be released to complete this program. Mr. Blair has also indicated that he would sign a waiver today of the preliminary examination.
All right, there's a lot going on here. Ms. Rognus, is that your understanding of the current circumstance?
Yes, it is, Your Honor, and hopefully the defendant can get his life squared away by utilizing the services that are available to him, changing his lifestyle.
All right, well, it's easier to say it than to do it, but let's talk about this. Mr. Blair, what's set for this morning is called a pre-exam conference. It's a conference in advance of a preliminary examination. That's set for next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. You have a right to have a preliminary examination. You also have a right to waive it and simply have the matter bound over to the circuit court where further endeavors could take place, including a trial if necessary. Are you willing to waive your right to have the preliminary examination and have the matter bound over to the circuit court?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me read you that waiver language. I, Thomas David Blair, have a right to employ an attorney. I may request a court-appointed attorney if I'm financially unable to employ one. I have a right to a preliminary examination where it must be shown that a crime was committed and probable cause exists to charge me with the crime. Here's the language. I voluntarily waive my right to a preliminary examination and understand that I will be bound over to the circuit court on the complaint and warrant. You agree to that?
Yes, sir.
All right, Carl, would you give this to Mr. Bush and Mr. Rognus and ask each of them to sign it? All right, your bond is 3,000 cash or surety. I'm about to reduce it to 3,000 PR. But you're not going to get out until they lift the front of the court hold anyway. Same bond conditions apply. You told me at the arraignment you were struggling with heroin addiction, which is why you didn't show up for the hearing date. That house at 303 Middle Street had a large drug seizure. There were alleged to be thousands of dollars worth of stolen property in there. It's terribly non-code compliant and it's just a nuisance. Once was a nice home. You're not going to go back to 303 Middle Street. Where are you going to go if you get out? The treatment program?
Yes, sir. The New Beginnings or the RSU, sir. I do not do well in Three Rivers. I'm not blaming nobody but myself, but for some reason I just don't do well in Three Rivers. So anywhere but 303 Middle Street, I know that. And I know I blame no one but myself. I know that I'm a man, I make my own choices, but I know I need all the aftercare treatment I can use, you know?
Well, it's difficult. Now, one thing they have for opioid addiction is some medically assisted treatment. There are some medical treatments, old-fashioned methadone, and there's some other newer drugs, some are injectable, which make the fight easier. And so maybe that can explore some of that. I wish we had such a miracle drug for methamphetamine, but we don't. All right. This matter is bound over to the circuit court. I went ahead and reduced the bond already because you aren't going to get out anyway. My fearful, if you got out between now and then, A, you have nowhere to live, and B, temptation is out there screaming at you with more fentanyl or heroin. So I agree with Mr. Bush's plan that you go straight from the jail to the treatment facility and then from there to the aftercare facility. That increases your chances of being successful in this.
Can the court emphasize to him that he needs to eventually give me either a phone number or an address? That's, I believe he's homeless right now, so I can.
Yes,
reach
when you
him.
get to the facility, you need to sign a release for your lawyer and you need to provide a phone number and address. Mr. Bush is still there. His family's had a law firm at that address for about 75 years. So he's not going anywhere. So when you get to where you're going, let Mr. Bush know how to contact you because you're gonna have a court date in a few months.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Blair, do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, sir, for this life-saving opportunity.
I hope so. All right, good luck, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Sir,
Uh,
Good luck, Mr. Blair.
thank you.
Mr. Blair was born the year you and I graduated from high school.